Hello, family. It's the Old School Traveler. I'm back again. I just came from Niagara Falls, New York. Niagara Falls, New York, and Niagara Falls, Canada, and Niagara Falls, the National Park. But this is going to focus on Niagara Falls, New York. And I'm just going to put it out there. You know, the best thing about Niagara Falls, New York is the fact that Niagara Falls, Canada is across the border. Because Niagara Falls, New York is just a dump. I'm talking about a dump. Now, you know, I go there and I was going to Niagara Falls to look at the waterfall, which you'll see in some of these videos I'm going to put up. And, you know, I truly, when I went there, I kind of went around the city a little bit and then got to the falls. But then I decided, let me get a tour of the city while I'm here. Let me eat and do a couple things here. Well, that was a mistake because Niagara Falls, New York, is a dump. It's just a flat out dump. It is what it is. I'm going to tell you how it is. You know, anytime you got a Dollar Tree or General Dollar or Dollar General, whatever you call it, and that's the biggest and the best store you have in your city, you got some problems. You got some problems. Now, saying that, I'm going to show you the good part too, because when I was leaving the city, I saw some nice areas. Not a lot. And I wonder who goes there, or who lives there. And it's sad because the area by the falls, the waterfalls themselves are nice. That's where all the money is. But that is such a small area and just really one or two streets. That's just a small area. And if you're a tourist and you didn't know better and you decided to go to Niagara Falls, the waterfall, and you see the street right next to it or the main street leading to it, you would think this is a very vibrant city. No. Nope. I thought the same thing and I found out that was just not true. Not true at all. Because I said, okay, this is nice, it's vibrant, it's got a lot of carny shops, you know, where you can buy souvenirs and buy all the other stuff, you know, all the overpriced junk that I normally buy. Yeah, I fall for it all the time. And also I like buying magnets and buying certain things. Then you go to the Canadian side. You say, this is even nicer. The Canadian side is developed. They built infrastructure. They got hotels. They got a lot of things there. We neglect our side big time. Yeah, we neglect our side big time. Canadians are doing it right. They're doing it right. Then I said, okay, I've been on the Canadian side. I enjoy myself. The American side, Niagara Falls itself, the falls is not too bad, but it is nothing compared like the Canadian side. If you go there, you really can skip the American side because the American side, you see one of the falls, but the Canadian side, you see all three falls. Oh yeah, you see all three of them. It's pretty, lots of parking, and most of the parking is free. Not on the American side, you know. But the American side, though, they're making some money because they got all these little businesses on that strip in front of the waterfalls that, you know, they're getting businesses and stuff. But it's not as crowded on the Canadian side where you got nice restaurants, you got all kind of stuff to do there. And then, you know, you got places to eat at, and God knows I love bison. And they were selling bison, man, like it was Skittles. It was just so many of them. You know, I mean, every restaurant had it on the menu. So that was good. Then I made the mistake of saying, okay, I still got 3 hours here, waiting on family to join me. I'm just going to go and get some food on the American side. Boy, was that a struggle. That city is a dump. It looks run down. And like I said, I just wanted to find a convenience store. You know, I found a couple gas stations, but I found a lot of Dollar Generals, you know, or Dollar Tree or whatever you call them. They all the same to me. They all owned by the same person. They all the same. I found a lot of them. And then I went to a gas station. I said, I'll get some gas while I'm here. I go to a gas station and they had like 4 little kids on bicycles, couldn't be no older than 6 or 7 years old, begging for money. Now, I've seen beggars around the world, but not little kids. You know, if you use a little kid, that's just a hell of a prop to use. Not that I was going to give them any money. I wasn't doing that at all. You know, but it's just that they walk to strangers they don't even know and just begging. What kind of city allows that? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, school's out. But these little bastards need to be somewhere with the parents. That might help. But I can look at them and tell that, okay, they're not going to be with their parents. They just out here just begging. A couple people in wheelchairs, and they look like they done seen the best days of their life a long time ago. Yeah, it's just not a pretty scene. And you're going to see a lot of that in this video. It's just, most cities I go to, you see your skinny people and your fat people. In Niagara Falls, everybody is super skinny, like they were a former crack addict or some drug addict. And when you see somebody who was fat, they was not from Niagara Falls. They were tourists who just got lost. Well, I wasn't lost. I intentionally rode around to look to see what was the best of Niagara Falls, because I always believe that there's a good side to every city. Now, the funny thing about it is that New York has put a lot of money into Rochester. Niagara Falls don't have anything. I don't even know what kind of job you can get outside of a gas station and a Dollar General. I don't know what kind of jobs they have there, because they didn't have any restaurants. And all the jobs cannot be just on that little strip in front of the waterfalls. That can't be all the jobs. Those are minimum wage jobs. And I rode around looking for the nice houses. Didn't find any. No. I guess anybody and everybody who got anything lives in Buffalo or somewhere outside the city, because they definitely don't live in the city. Their houses look derelict. And then I seen people coming out of the houses. I was like, whoa. I thought they was getting ready to demolish that house. And those 5 people just came out of the house looking like they lived there. Yeah, I mean, it was just, if you go to Niagara Falls, stay in Canada. That's a lot better deal. There's a lot better everything and everywhere you can imagine. Stay in Canada. Do not stay in Niagara Falls. Matter of fact, now I think about it, I didn't see any damn hotels in Niagara Falls. Not on the American side. I know they got them somewhere around there. I'm sure they got a Red Roof Inn and a Motel 6 and a Super 9. I know because every city got one of those. I know they got them somewhere around there, but I just didn't see them. And I drove down the main street. Saying, I'm going to see all this. I'm going to find all this. No, not at all. And there are times when you feel bad for a city and the people in their city, but not Niagara Falls. Because I'm thinking, okay, you're 40 years old. Why are you still here? What is it that makes you want to stay here? You're not in the tourist area. You're out here in the city. And you can see that at some point, Niagara Falls was a steel belt town at some point. But man, you look nowadays, man, it just seen its best days. I'm talking like 30, 40 years ago, not even yesterday. I mean, their best days been passed them by. But they had to have some reason, I hope, outside of the falls to have, they are a declining population. I don't know how they would attract anybody. And crime is very alive there, put it that way. You go in the wrong areas, you can tell that you're going to get robbed, killed, or murdered. It's worse than some places in Baltimore, which is hard to believe nowadays. But it's one of those things that, you look at it and you say, can I make it here if I had nothing? Well, if you got nothing, you ain't gonna make it there because they got nothing. And there's nobody to buy anything from you if you did set a business up. I don't care what kind of business you set up. The only business I can think that you could set up and make it is if you gave away everything you got. In other words, come with $1 million, expect to lose all of it. Because I don't see anybody got any kind of job that can afford anything. I just didn't see any of that. That's just how Niagara Falls rolls. I mean, it's just a very economically depressed area once you leave the tourist area. If you're in the tourist area, you can be blindsided. But even in the tourist area, those little souvenir shops, they're not making a lot of money. They're not making a lot of money. So, I mean, but yet those people are not going to close down their fireworks or their souvenir shop, and they're not going home to some nice house. They're not doing that. They're going home just far enough to not be in the crime area. And that's most of the city. Most of the city. Now, I have been to Niagara Falls 3 or 4 times in my life. And it looks the exact same way it did 20 years ago. Like the same potholes, same gas stations. Even the McDonald's did not have a parking lot. It was drive through or park across the street and walk into McDonald's. That's just funny because I parked across the street. I saw cars just pull into the parking lot across the street where I was at, and nobody was getting out. Nobody was getting out. I'm like, okay, I don't feel safe. Let me get the hell out, because they're sitting in their cars. They're either doing something illegal, thinking about it, or already done did it somewhere else. And they just decide to come here and just take a break. But they were not going to McDonald's to eat, because if they wanted food through the drive-through, they would have never been where I was at. And I was waiting, I was waiting on somebody to pick them up. But it was just one of those strange things that you ask yourself, why would I even come here? No, don't go there. People go to the city of Niagara, New York, only if they're lost, or they say this is a great crime opportunity for me to enhance my wealth by robbing somebody else. Yeah. But other than that, there's no reason to go over there. There's absolutely no reason to go over there. But some people, they are from these cities, but it looked like everybody had cleared the hell out of the city. It looked like everybody had left, because you drive around and the video is going to show you, you don't see a lot of cars. You don't see a lot of people, period. And they got a freeway, 190, I think it's called, Interstate 190. And they got a freeway and pretty much empty. And this is during rush hour. And I was like, what city has a freeway that's empty during rush hour? And then I noticed that all the cars was getting off at the same exit, the exit to the park, to the waterfalls. Everybody got off there. And they got some old bridges that can scare the hell out of you, because you hear them shake when you're on them. And I'm like, this infrastructure has not been upgraded. And last time I was there, it was like maybe 2007, something like that, 2008. That was the last time I was there. And I was thinking to myself, man, they ain't put a penny to none of this. And I can't even imagine being there when it snows. They probably ain't got no damn snowplow. They probably with a lawnmower just decided that the blades get hot enough, it'll melt the snow, because they just don't have it. But, if you go there, you're going to enjoy yourself truly on the Canadian side. Make sure you got a passport. And I know that everybody there, who lives there don't have passports. So the line is not very long. And if it is, because you got tourists going over to the Canadian side. Canadian side get about 10-to-1 ratio of the American side. And now I ask myself, the county or the state is collecting taxes from something over there, from Niagara Falls, because, the falls itself is very, very nice. It's not bad. It's just nowhere near as good as the Canadian side as far as being scenic. Scenic side is Canadian side. Matter of fact, you go there, if you didn't see the American side of the falls, you ain't missing shit. You ain't missing nothing. You just save yourself a lot of time that you cannot get back in your life. You go straight to the Canadian side and spend a few days there. 3 days, 2 days is really all you need, but you can make it 3 if you want to try more restaurants like I normally do, but that is just sad, because they can make it so much better, so much bigger, if they invested money in that city. Crime is off the chain. Some places you go, they just look like they ready to rob you or eat you or whatever. They just give you that look. You got a guy with a wheelchair. You got a guy who looked like he just got out of jail. They all hanging together, doing what they do. And I know what they're doing. They're plotting on who's the next victim. And there's a likely chance, if you from out of town, that's going to be you. So don't stop. I didn't even, I went to get some gas, and I just decided that I'll get gas when I get way out of town. When my gas tank says you're empty, or you're an idiot for driving me this far without getting some gas. I was not getting gas in Niagara Falls. Not only that, looked like I was the only customer that guy was going to have for the whole day. Outside those kids on bicycles begging for money. Looked like I was the only customer he's going to have the whole day. And I just said, this is not good. Because I just know that they are going to try and rob me, because they already begging before I even got out of the car. And then you tell kids to move out of the way on the bicycles, they shoot you the finger. They just, basically you interrupting their day and you're in their territory, in their city. And the gas stations are so far apart. That's the part that bothered me too. I was on the main road downtown, and now a lot of big cities don't have gas stations in the center core of the town because the real estate costs so much. Not Niagara Falls. They should be begging you, to rent whatever you want to rent. And they didn't even have all the fast food joints, just McDonald's. And now I know somewhere in the city they got a Burger King, but normally you find fast food joints all clustered together. Not Niagara Falls. Now they got so much real estate, and I've seen places where I know they had buildings at before, and now they're just parking lots. Now, the funny thing about it was that I did see a few Amish people there, and Amish people, they kind of naive when it comes to crime because they don't have crime, so they kind of naive to it. And if it wasn't so many of them, I think they would have all got robbed too. But they were a group of about 80 of them, and I had saw them earlier at the Niagara Falls, at the waterfalls. So I had saw them earlier. I'm like, they naive as hell because they're in the same part of the town I'm in. They shouldn't be here because I shouldn't be here. And I didn't stay very long. So I knew I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I knew that they were an opportunity, but so was I. Now, here's the funny thing about it, though. When you're in the bad part of the town, normally you got a police presence of some type. Because most of the time, all the smart cops are in the tourist areas where ain't a lot happening other than pickpocket. No, I didn't see a cop the whole time. So I'm thinking to myself, if something goes down, something happens, hey, I'm on my own. And I got people in the car with me who ain't going to be no help. Because it's not like they got guns or they're very mobile. I got, I had an older uncle and an older aunt. So I'm thinking, okay, let me get out of here so I can save not just their life, but mine too. That's kind of like how my priority list of things to save in life is my own. But, at the same time, we talk about a lot of food, a lot of travel, and, we talk about a lot of different things. And I'm not an expert on any particular thing. I just been around a long time, seen a lot of things and know a lot of things. And I'm always going to tell you what I see. Now, there are people who will make comments, don't dog out Niagara Falls. Hey, man, listen, the video don't lie. You got a part of Niagara Falls it's kind of funny. When you're leaving the city, that part's very, very nice. The video will show you that when you're leaving the city. But the reverse way, that part's very nice when you enter the city. But once you get about maybe a quarter mile past that initial mile going to the city, that's when you see shit fall apart. That's when you're like, holy crap. I seen all this other stuff, so I just knew I was in a very vibrant and up-and-coming city like Rochester. And Niagara Falls probably had, at some point, the population was 100, 150,000 at some point. Now, it might be 50,000 at the most, because it just looked like anybody just left, just up and said, you know what, peace, I'm out. Because that's what I would have did at the age of birth. I'd have been gone. Because you can see that through your mama eyes when you in a womb. You can see that and say, mama, we're not staying here. This is going to be a problem. But, sometimes I go to little cities and there are dumps, but the people who live there are very passionate about them. I have no clue why. Niagara Falls remind me of Jackson, Mississippi in a lot of ways. It reminds me of Jackson, Mississippi. It ain't nothing like I expected this time because it's been a while since I've been there, and I just thought at some point they just rebuilt the whole damn city. And, and just because, be honest about it, they should build it from the ground up. They should build it from the ground up, and I'm willing to donate for their cost, because they need a lot of work. They need some jobs, because I didn't see anybody. Matter of fact, I didn't see anybody in a suit and tie. Going downtown, I went downtown, and that's not really a downtown. It's got like 3 or 4 streets and a couple of buildings on it, and they call it downtown. There's no high rises. There's none of that kind of stuff. But yet they get all their tourist attraction at Niagara Falls. They should be rolling their money. The Canadian side is rolling their money because you go there and you say, man, they got everything going on. They got everything you want to see. They got it right there. From a Tim Hortons to nice restaurants, Niagara Falls just didn't have that. Even what they thought was a nice restaurant in Niagara Falls, to me, it was a dump. I'm like, okay, this is nice. But I have to remind myself, when you got $1 and someone got 0, you look like you're rich. Even though the guy there with $1 million ain't gonna ever be there, but you look like you're rich. So this is the old school traveler telling you, man, you know, I hate going to cities, because when I revisit cities, I'm thinking there's been some changes. And when I say changes, improvements in that city. That's one of the things that when you're not really a full-time, semi-full-time traveler, that's all you want to see. You want to see changes for the best, for the people there, for everything. And as a tourist, if you can't impress me as a tourist, I ain't no way I can imagine what people, how they live, people who live there permanently. There's no way you're going to ever get me to go someplace like that. But this is the old school traveler saying, this is about Niagara Falls. Peace out.